Hello everyone, I'd like to take a minute and introduce myself and this channel. My name is Bill Safa, and what I've done here is I've created a channel that will specifically focus on looking at medieval sword and shield techniques. Okay, now there are no surviving historical manuscripts that show us how combat was done during the Middle Ages with sword and shield. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at later manuscripts, particularly the German longsword and the sword and buckler treatises, and we're going to be taking some of those techniques and seeing how it can be applied to sword and shield. Okay, now a little bit about my background. About 15 years ago, I took an interest in swordsmanship, and I approached it from two directions. I started fighting in the SCA. Okay. And at the same time, I joined a local HEMA club. Okay, and so two totally different directions. One focuses on fighting, and you get a rule set. In the SCA, you have a rule set. You have an understanding of what is a good enough hit, and what the target areas are, and you can use whatever techniques you want to achieve a good enough blow. Okay, on HEMA, on the other side, we specifically look at historical manuscripts, and we try to understand what they show us, and we try to figure out how we can use those techniques in combat. Okay, so two totally different approaches. Now, while fighting in the SCA, and studying the German longsword in HEMA, occasionally in the SCA I would pick up a greatsword, which is basically a large two-handed sword. And I would use a lot of the techniques that I learned in the German longsword with the SCA greatsword, and I really didn't have any difficulty. I saw it was quite effective, and I really wasn't that surprised because the two are very similar. Okay. Now recently, a couple of months ago, I started studying sword and buckler. That's from the HEMA side. Okay, so I started looking at these historical manuscripts, and basically I'm looking at these techniques, I'm looking at the various plays, and I'm saying, wait a second, this is very familiar to what I've been doing for the last 15 years. Okay, so basically the way I've come to understand this is to give you guys an example, it is as if a person has been driving a car for 15 years already. Okay, let's say in the United States, and then somebody from Germany, hands you a book. Okay, written in German, and you have no idea what it is or what it says. So you take this book written in German, you give it to somebody to translate, and they do an English translation. You start reading through it, and then you realize, okay, it's a driving manual. And as you're reading through it, basically you say, yeah, well, I understand what these things mean. I understand, what they're telling me to do because I already know how to drive a car. Okay, now there's going to be some differences. Okay, because for one thing, the rules are going to be a little bit different in Germany. The road signs mean different things. There's different road etiquette. So as you're reading through this German manuscript, this German driving manual that's been translated into English, there's going to be a couple of things that are not familiar, but you can kind of make sense of it. You can understand, yeah, they have different rules over there, so these few things are going to be a little bit different. But for the most part, you already know how to drive a car, and a German car and an American car pretty much drive the same way. So you're able to understand what that German translated book is trying to tell you. Okay, now let's jump into that for a second. Let's talk about the rules. I mentioned that the driving rules in Germany, on the German roads, might be a little bit different. Okay, that wouldn't be very different from looking at a swordsmanship book, because when during medieval times, when knights fought, they had rules too. Okay, the code of chivalry was exactly that. It was a set of rules. Okay, knights had rules. For example, like a knight could not attack another knight unless that knight had a chance to get into armor. Okay, so that's a medieval rule. Okay, another medieval rule that knights had was that if I was a knight and I was on horseback, I would not fight another knight who was on foot. I would have to dismount in order to fight that other knight on fair terms. Okay, and the reason is because we're both knights, we're both equals. Okay, if he was a peasant, on the other hand, I don't have to dismount. I can kill him from horseback. Okay. So you know, right there you see a difference in the rules. And as far as etiquette, let's talk about etiquette for a second. During the medieval times, you know, one of the reasons why knights fought was to you know, to capture other knights and ransom them. Okay, so it was bad etiquette to kill another knight. Okay, the goal was to fight him, kill all his men. All right, take the knight for ransom. So again, there's another example of a rule. Okay, so the point of all this is, you know, when I fight in the SCA, yes, we have certain rules, and the rules do change how the fighting is done to some extent. But the sword and the shield are still going to move in a very similar manner. So basically, we can look at the techniques that have been developed in the SCA over the last 60 years, and we can also look at the sword and buckler manuscripts, and we're going to see that there's a lot of similarities. Okay. Now I'll give you guys a quick example. Like, for example, if we look at just the German longsword, for example, one of the 5 master strokes is the Zwerchau. Okay, a high horizontal strike. Okay, that's your Zwerchau. Okay, should be very familiar to most of the people watching this channel. Well, with the sword and shield, okay, one of the very first shots that a person is taught is the flat snap, which is basically a high horizontal cut. Okay. All right. So right there, you can see the similarity. You know, basically that what's called a flat snap in the SCA is a Zwerchau in the German fighting manuscripts. Okay. So you know, and now that's just a little kind of teaser for you guys. There's a lot of similar cuts that we're going to talk about, and I'll show you the similarities. Okay. I encourage you guys to participate in discussion. You know, by all means, you know, post some comments in the comment section. You know, if you like the videos, give them a thumbs up. I also encourage you guys to hit the subscribe button so you can keep up with new videos that I post, and you can participate in the discussion. Now, these videos are not me lecturing to you guys. Okay, this is a presentation of the things that I've learned over the last 15 years from both the SCA side and the HEMA side, and some of the the similarities that I've seen. Okay, so if you got, I encourage you guys to share your experiences, things that you guys have learned, to try out some of the things that I'm going to present to you guys, and to post some comments, and basically we're regardless of whether you're coming at this from the HEMA side or the SCA side, we're basically on a path of rediscovery here. Okay, there are no historical manuscripts that detail sword and shield fighting, but I think that we have enough information through practical fighting, or rather, I should say, through sports fighting, right, and through the later period manuals, to put something together that I believe makes sense. So looking forward to seeing you guys next time.